Mitchell Trubisky was actually a pretty difficult guy to rank on this list. Honestly, if I made one of these lists last offseason, he might be left off the list entirely because it didn't go well. However, with a new offensive-minded coach in Matt Nagy, Trubisky definitely had a much better season this year. He actually ended up with 230 passing yards per game, which was 25th best in the league, and not to mention he has a good running ability, which really brought him up there even higher. Looking at the stats, they definitely were much improved as he passed for 230 yards per game, and that's not even counting his rushing ability, which definitely helped. His 24 touchdowns to 12 interceptions is nothing to write home about, but still very solid, and he definitely had a very solid second season. And honestly, when I was looking through this list, I really think you can make an argument that he should be ahead of the next 6 or 7 guys I have mentioned. If you just look at his stats are very good. However, let's just get into the actual film study portion of this video so I can more explain why I put him on this spot. I know some Bears fans are probably going to want him higher, and I understand why you'd feel that way, but let me just get into it. First, let's start with the positives. Let's start with that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, which, he really just tore apart that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. One play that actually really jumped out at me, and might have been the most fascinating Mitchell Trubisky play all of last season, was this one. It's a cover 2 zone, and I know this angle is weird, but that's just because this is from Soldier Field, and the all-22 footage in Soldier Field is just probably the worst all-22 footage out of any stadium. It's not Soldier Field's fault, the stadium just didn't build a certain thing to try to create a good all-22 footage area, but regardless. So it's a cover 2 zone, and take a look what's going to happen after this ball is snapped. Chicago does have a receiver right there that's pretty much not open at all, actually. This is going to take a perfect throw for Trubisky to try to hit that receiver. Whereas he has another receiver right there wide open in the flat, and honestly, if he just waits a second and then hits that receiver, this could potentially be a touchdown if he just throws it there and that receiver is able to run into the end zone. At the very least, it's a first down, and you're looking at first down and goal inside the 5, which is a great situation. So there's no doubt about it, that's where Trubisky should try to throw the ball to. But that's not what he's going to end up doing, and he actually does make a perfect throw, which results in a touchdown. So that's a weird play to show, right? The play worked, it was a touchdown, so good play, right? Well, yes and no. Yes, good play that he made that throw. It's good to know that he can make some very good throws from time to time, for sure. But also, in my opinion, that is a flaw. I like quarterbacks who can make better reads than that. I know some people might say, oh no, he was just confident in his abilities that he can make that throw. I disagree. I don't think he was. And if he was, I think that's still the wrong decision. I think you gotta take that dump off and take the guaranteed 12 yards and still a potential touchdown as opposed to the very small chance of there being a touchdown. But at the same time, I'm conflicted because he still did make a very good athletic throw. So that's kind of where my confusion comes in, and that's why I have a hard time ranking Trubisky on this list. One thing that I do feel like benefited Trubisky, and one thing that I also feel like he did a very good job of, was just being able to fit in that Matt Nagy system. Like, this play is a good example. That's going to be the coverage that Tampa Bay likes to run. Tampa Bay likes to run a lot of unique coverages, which did not work out at all last year. Basically, the way this is going to work is that the number 1 receiver on the bottom half of the screen is going to run that route, which should, in theory, force Tampa Bay's secondary player to then run closer to the middle of the field. So then when he does that, the Chicago Bears' number 3 receiver actually will then cut back to the bottom half of the screen, and in theory, potentially get through where that gap is going to be open. One thing you'll notice right off the bat is look at that pocket. There is just nobody even close to Trubisky at this point. There's clean pockets, and then there's that. That's just, Tampa Bay has to do a better job of getting to Trubisky on that one. But also give credit to the Chicago offensive line for being able to hold them. Chicago offensive line, very underrated offensive line in my opinion. Pro Football Focus put him at number 11, and honestly, I'd probably have him a little bit higher. I thought they were really good last year. I also saw that Pro Football Focus said that they were the second best at pass blocking last year. So, definitely a very good offensive line. But anyways, sorry, sometimes I get on tangents when talking about good offensive line play. Let's get back to the play. I actually really like this play from Mitchell Trubisky because he has a receiver open right there. The problem with this play is going to be the Tampa Bay secondary player who's further deep. Trubisky can't just throw this one deep like he might like to. Trubisky is going to have to throw this ball on more of a line, but he realizes that and makes a great throw for a huge gain. That's just smart football. Not just realizing where you have to throw it, but also realizing how hard you have to throw it and how high in the air you have to throw it. How much airspace should it have? Oftentimes in those deep balls, you try to get more air under it because that can result in touchdowns. But in that play, if there was more air under it, it's probably an interception. So just really smart play by Trubisky on that one. One thing that I actually really like about Trubisky, that I think we all really like about Trubisky, is his running ability. You can't just talk about his passing ability as a whole, you have to bring up his running ability, and especially running against man coverage, he is just so good at. Like on this one, it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and take a look what's going to end up happening here. More importantly, watch where Trubisky is looking at. He's really watching one Patriot here. He's watching that Patriot right over there. Trubisky isn't even concerned about throwing the football here, which typically I would consider a negative, but when you can run the ball like Trubisky, it definitely can be a positive. He sees that Patriot who's in charge of covering the middle of the screen is playing pretty far deep and also pretty far to the bottom half of the screen. So Trubisky can simply just step up in the pocket and run and pick up a decent gain just by running the ball. Number 10 really has incredible acceleration. I'm not sure which quarterbacks have acceleration quite like Trubisky. I mean, I guess Lamar Jackson would be one, but there's not many. Even some other of the more mobile quarterbacks, like take a Russell Wilson for example, yeah, he's a mobile quarterback, but he doesn't accelerate like Trubisky does. If you want a guy who can get around pressure, acceleration might not matter so much, but in terms of a quarterback who can help you in the running game, acceleration is what you want, and acceleration is what Trubisky has. He also is very smart in when he chooses to run, and he will sometimes run in zone coverage as well. Like on this one, it is a cover 2 zone, but take a look at what's going to end up happening here. Basically, look at the Patriots defenders who are in charge of covering that midfield, and look at how far deep they are. So if you're Trubisky, oftentimes you will in this situation just look for a quick dump off, because hey, you can get below those zones in coverage and pick up a decent gain just right off the bat. It's a small thing you can do to pick up some yards. It won't gain a ton of yards, but you can't go broke making a profit. It's important to pick up some yards, however, there isn't really a dump off here for Trubisky to try to throw to. But that's where his running ability comes in. He's still going to run and basically create his own dump off on this play. Again, should be mentioned, another well blocked play by Chicago, but again, Trubisky just doing a very good job of finding a way to pick up 6 yards. Having a quarterback who can run is so key because it almost just gives you a 6th eligible receiver in a way. I mean, a quarterback literally is an eligible receiver, but you know what I mean. The opposing team has to have someone paying attention to him at all times, or it can be a very bad thing. So those are the things that I like about Mitchell Trubisky, but there are some things that I just don't like that much about Mitchell Trubisky. Like on this play, it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and Chicago does have a receiver running that route, which could get open right there. Right in the middle of the screen. I kind of like to call that spot the eye of the storm in a way, because there's obviously storm all around you, but if you can get into that middle of the screen, it actually is quite often open. Especially now in today's NFL, with the new rule changes, you can't go over and just hit someone really hard in that area. Now the middle of the screen is definitely very far opened up, and it's something that a lot of teams often try to attack. So what's one way you could try to take away that quote-unquote eye of the storm if you were really trying to? Well, one thing that Minnesota's going to do is have a linebacker drop back into coverage, basically taking away that middle of the field. So now, not only would that Chicago Bear have to win his one-on-one matchup and basically win a jump ball, but there's also 2 other Minnesota Vikings players who could potentially run it away and get into the area, because at this point, that receiver had to run farther back. The eye of the storm has been closed up, and Trubisky should notice this, but once again, he's just going to take a deep shot there anyways. It's just a throw that should never have been made, and it results in an interception. That's just not a throw you want to make there. And it wasn't time for desperation either. It was a 1st down and 10 with 14 minutes left in the second quarter. I mean, that's just not the throw you want to make there. It's something I think Mitchell Trubisky can improve on, and again, if I was drafting quarterbacks, he would definitely not be number 28 on my list. This list is for quarterbacks right now, not for potential. I think this guy has potential to be a top 20 or potentially even a top 10 quarterback at some time during his career, but as of today, he just isn't there. He struggles making reads sometimes in the passing game. That's something that's actually really frustrating to watch, because I feel like if he could really iron out that part of his game, he could be a much better player. Like on this one, it's going to be a modified cover 1 hole, but take a look what's going to end up happening here. What Chicago is going to do is have a tight end start off blocking an edge rusher, but then he's going to run out to run a route. However, it looks like Harrison Smith actually kind of blew his assignment on this one. And granted, I don't know if this is Harrison Smith who blew the assignment or someone else, but it seems like it's Harrison Smith because he's the only defensive back in that area. It might not have been him actually, because it does look like they broke back into a cover 2. However, Minnesota does have some smart players, and it is possible that their other safety just saw Harrison Smith break back, and then he also broke to the top half of the screen. It's hard to tell exactly which Viking blew their assignment, but one thing is for sure. A Viking blew their assignment, and now there is a Bear wide open with plenty of room to run. And not to mention, this is a 3rd down and 8, so all Trubisky has to do is simply flip it to his tight end, easy 8 yards, you get the 1st down. It's that simple. Not to mention, on the top half of the screen, both of his other receivers aren't open, so Trubisky should be looking around trying to see what else is open. But instead, he still tries to make a shot over there, and also just throws a terrible ball, and it ends up getting intercepted. I mean, I watched almost his entire season when I was making this video, and this one was probably the worst play I saw of his. It maybe wouldn't have been that bad of a disaster if he saw a guy who he thought was open and then just missed the throw, because I get sometimes you just see a guy open and you don't want to miss your opportunity. But he didn't have a receiver open. That was just a bad play by Trubisky, and he does have a tendency to make those types of plays from time to time. If he's going to be a top 20 quarterback in the league, or, forget that, if he's going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, he can't be making those mistakes. I mean, Trubisky is in a situation right now where he has a chance to really cement his legacy and win a Super Bowl very early on. He's still on a rookie contract, and they have an elite defense, a very good offensive line, and a good running game. Even their receivers, in my opinion, aren't terrible. A lot of their success is going to come from how well Trubisky can play, and I hate to put that much pressure on a quarterback, especially because that's such a meatball take. This team can only go as far as a quarterback can. Well, not really, but the fact of the matter is with the Bears, that kind of is the case. However, I am not a Trubisky hater by any means. This guy is far from a perfect player, but he showed up when it mattered most. I thought he actually played pretty well in that playoff game game, despite the fact that their offense as a whole didn't play particularly great. I thought that Nagy didn't actually have the best game plan for that one. I thought he should have called more deep passes down the field, but even despite that, I thought Trubisky played pretty well. And I am one of those people that I think your ability to perform in the big games does matter. Like on this play, it's getting down to it. There's 9.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they're down by 1. So, a field goal is what they definitely need, but touchdown is really what they would prefer. Philadelphia is running a cover 3, and Chicago has a receiver running a double move to the top half of the screen, and this could be something you want to look to throw to. That receiver is just getting ready to make his second part of that double move, and look at Trubisky. He's throwing the ball. He's going to take a chance. He's going to sling it, and he is not afraid of this big moment, which in my opinion is a very good thing. I think a lot of guys kind of freeze up in these situations. Trubisky didn't, and it ended up working out because their receiver did get very open, and it resulted in a touchdown that ended up taking the lead, and would have been a game-winning touchdown had things broken down differently. A lot of guys freeze up in these situations and try to just make small passes and try to just run the ball because they're afraid of taking a shot deep, but Trubisky didn't there. He said, let's force the issue right now. Let's see if we can't get a touchdown and go up by 7. And while I didn't get the 2-point conversion, they did at least go up by 5, which was huge. And it wasn't just that either. I mean, obviously, as we all know, the Eagles did come back and retake the lead. Everyone remembers the double doink, but what people don't talk about that much is the fact that Trubisky did lead them into field goal range. That's something I brought up in my Teddy Bridgewater video about the infamous Blair Walsh game. But Bridgewater was the one that got them into field goal range in the first place, and he did everything that he could control to get them in position to win that game. And while this one wasn't quite as close, it's still sort of the same effect. He got them into field goal range, and really the play he got them into it was this one. It's a cover 2 zone, and that's going to be the key guy to watch here. That's the receiver who is going to be running into a gap in coverage right over there. One thing I'm going to take a look at once this play develops is look at Trubisky, and actually more importantly, look at that Philadelphia Eagle right there. That Eagle is about to lay a huge hit on Trubisky. He's about to try to murder Trubisky. That's what he's going to try to do here. But the Bears receiver is just about to get open. If Trubisky tries to run around in the pocket, he'll miss his opportunity. He also doesn't want to take a step back and throw off balance because it's going to be a tough throw to make. This is not a huge gap in coverage by any means. So Trubisky's going to step into the throw, take a hit, but still make an accurate enough throw for this to be a completion. He put his body on the line, and it paid off as they were able to get into field goal range on that play. Now, I know the field goal ended up getting blocked, and it didn't matter, but Trubisky made the throw that should have gotten him into field goal range. He should have been the hero. My personal prediction for this ranking is that nobody is going to be happy with it. I think Bears fans are going to be saying he should be way higher because he does have slightly better stats than the number 28 quarterback. Not to mention he did play well in his one playoff game, whereas I think his haters will say, wait a second, this guy sucks, doesn't he? He had an awful first season, and he's clearly just a product of the Matt Nagy system. And to me, I don't agree with either of those takes. I think he is at 28. I think this is a pretty fair ranking for him. He's definitely had his positive moments, but he's had his negative moments as well. Until he gets to be a more consistent, very good football player, I definitely think that I can't really put him that much higher. It's who would I take to start the 2019 season, and in my opinion, there are 27 quarterbacks I would take before him.